we're launching a brand new show. This is No Holds Barred with André Walker, and we're going to be challenging all of the big issues of the day just as we run up to that vitally important general election. A general election in which the left in this country want a stymie democracy, where the Keir Starmers of this world want to attack our very institutions, where people like John Bercow are going to go out and fight the ordinary British people. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking to Tom Harwood about that evil Remain alliance that's going to do so much damage to the people of Wales. We're going to be talking to Patrick Christys about John Bercow and the fact he's not got a peerage. Whoopie-doo, thank God for that. And an exclusive interview with Ian Lavery, the Labour Party chairman. I absolutely can't wait for him. He's only sat 15 feet away from me right now. Oh my goodness, that's going to be incredible. And also, in a worldwide first since 1991, we're going to be awarding the Order of Lenin. Yes, Stalin got it, Brezhnev got it, Kim Il-sung got it, and even Kim Philbin got it. And now we are going to be awarding it right here in this studio to the biggest loony leftist of the week. That is going to be incredible and absolutely not to be missed. But first, in the Spotlight segment, I'm going to be talking about snowflake culture. We've all seen that this week a group of young people have tried to ban the word Anglo-Saxon. We know about their opposition to Britain's history and the proud traditions of this nation. And we also saw this week an incredible story where a female beautician is being sued because she wouldn't give a back, crack and sack. Yeah, that's right. She wouldn't wax the balls of somebody who is self-defining as a woman. This sort of culture is such a danger to our society, and we need to fight it. But you know what? I've got some sympathy with snowflakes, even though you wouldn't believe that. Because I saw when there was a group of people who went to Smithfield Market from Extinction Rebellion and had a wake for the dead cows, and then went for a burger at McDonald's afterwards. People laughed at them. But you know, I didn't laugh. And there's a reason I didn't laugh. Because actually, this country now has an absence of religion. And the reason that many of these young people are so obsessed with Extinction Rebellion is because they want to feel a sense of belonging. They want to be in with the in crowd. You know, maybe they fancy a girl or boy at their university or school. That's why they get involved in these things. Now, I'm not saying that we need to return to religion. I'm not religious myself. But what I am saying is there is a lack of belonging, a sense of belonging for these young people. And also, when we talk about democracy, you know, when people are banning the word Anglo-Saxon, does that sound like they're politically engaged? No, it doesn't. They know, as young people, that whichever way they vote, nothing is going to change. And I blame the European Union for that, even though they don't blame the European Union themselves. Similarly, where the most important tenet of a democratic and capitalist society is home ownership. And what a failure we have made of that in recent years. Young people who would have aspired to be on the property ladder before, now just simply do not have the opportunity to do that. And that is undermining capitalism itself. And that's why 1 in 4 young people in Britain are now saying they have a positive view of communism. That awful tyranny that robbed the lives of millions and millions of people and threw millions more into abject suffering and medieval poverty. But we need to fight for this system. And ever since we were superseded by the European Union, ever since we allowed capitalism to become the corporatism that they so love in the EU, we began to fail this country. So from now on this show, we're not going to have a go at the snowflakes. We're going to try and engage with them. After all, they have no sense of belonging, hence why the pagan religion of Extinction Rebellion is popular. They have no access to democracy because of the European Union and the attacks that we've made on our system through people like Speaker Bercow. And also, they have no access to popular capitalism because they can't own their own homes. Anyway, on that depressing note, we now know that this issue is potentially going to get even worse with the Remain alliance that has been announced this week. Unbelievably, Plaid Cymru, the Party of Wales, is stepping aside in many seats in order to allow the Liberal Democrats to win. And what's the reason? Because they want parties that support European Union membership to win in Wales. It's going on right across the UK as well. The Party of Wales is now attacking the very Welsh voters that voted to leave the European Union. I'm joined now by Tom Harwood from Guido Fawkes. Tom, it's a democratic nightmare, right?
Oh, it's absolutely extraordinary. You've got three parties that are banding together to try and deny the vote of 2016. And what we're seeing most perniciously in this is parties like the Lib Dems that in one part of the country say we're standing up for the Union. In Scotland, they'll bang on about being a unionist party who wants to stay in the United Kingdom. In Wales, in some seats, they're standing aside for a party that wants to break up the United Kingdom. They're prioritising stopping Brexit above the very existence of the United Kingdom, and that's quite extraordinary.
Here's the thing I don't understand. Guy Verhofstadt, a man that I think is one of the ugliest men in politics, both in terms of the way he looks and in terms of his views, somebody who believes in abolishing democracy, somebody who hates the nation state, somebody who hates sovereignty, certainly hates people like you and I. He tweeted this week about saying that the first honest bus he'd ever seen, and the bus said, Joe Swinson, Liberal Democrat. How can you be a Liberal if you backed Goldman Sachs during the popular uprising? And how can you be a Democrat if you want to reverse a democratic referendum?
The Liberal Democrats have fallen as a party so far in the last decade or two. They used to be a party that had stood up for free trade, for low taxes, for individual liberty, and now they're fighting every single one of those tenets of liberalism. And it's really depressing to see not only that sort of it's become a social democratic party in all but name, a party that stands up for high taxation, for crushing the individual, but it also stands as its major pledge, its practically only pledge in this election, is overturning a democratic vote before it's even been implemented. It's quite extraordinary.
It's surprising and it's scary, isn't it? But, you know, I see young people going out campaigning all the time, and I don't say they're campaigning in favour of EU membership. I say they're campaigning against democracy. Why do we care so little about liberal democracy and capitalism?
I think that what we've seen in the last 3 years is a steady erosion of what people have understood to be the fundamental tenets of democracy. The most crucial part of living in a democratic system is a concept called losers' consent.
Yes.
You don't live in a democracy if the losers can't accept results of votes. I mean, it's extraordinary. If you imagine a football match being asked to be rerun before the cup was even awarded, or a general election to be refought before the winners could even take their seats. This is what we're talking about now, and through pernicious language, through weasel words, what we've found over the last 3 years is that a well-funded establishment has attacked that very idea and won over a substantial minority of this country in terms of thinking that democracy doesn't matter, that their voice is more important than the majority voice in this country, and that's so sad.
Do you know, I actually think, Tom, that when the Remainers say we're stupid, I think they've got a point. I think we are stupid because you, me, Guido Fawkes, Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, we were stupid enough to believe that when we voted to leave, that would be respected. Why were we so idiotic?
I think there was a bit of hubris, of sort of British exceptionalism, if you will, after that vote. We saw how in Ireland and in France and in the Netherlands, countries continually voted against EU treaties and the EU constitution, and they were overturned. Those votes were just thrown away. Yes. We thought Britain was different. We thought that this would be respected, and it turns out we were so wrong. We shouldn't have been so complacent after 2016 to allow someone who voted Remain to become Prime Minister. That was a fundamental error. And if we'd had this Prime Minister from the start, we'd be in a very different situation than we find ourselves today.
Hey, look, I'm a Conservative, right? So I don't believe in taking to the streets. I certainly don't believe in the things you see in France where people burn down buildings and shops and that sort of thing when they're angry, or blockade ports. At what point, imagine now, we cancel Brexit, we just cancel Article 50, and we're still in the EU in 10 years. What is the breaking point for this country? Because you can't govern without consent, right?
I hope that never comes. What we need to think is more tactically than boorishly. What needs to happen is we need to look at things like this Remain alliance that's cropping up in 60 seats in this election. And everyone who votes Leave needs to look in their own constituencies at who is the most credible Leave backing candidate to win. Because ultimately, the only way we make change is through our parliamentary democracy. It's been shown that referendums and popular votes will be ignored because ultimately the power rests with people sitting in Westminster. We need to change the people in Westminster. We need to get parliamentary majority government back so that tricks can't be played through the Speaker of the House of Commons or anyone else. So what really matters is that people need to think really hard, really carefully and really tactically about who they vote for in just 6 weeks' time.
Tom Harwood from Guido, Fawkes, what a phenomenal guy, and genuinely he's been out fighting for you guys and fighting for me to try and get democracy sorted. Anyway, as a bit of light relief, we've now got the idiotic clip of the week, and this week we've got a montage of Diane Abbott, the person who could potentially be Home Secretary. I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
I suppose some people will judge that on balance, Mao did more good than harm. We can't say that about the Nazis.
£300,000 for
Sorry,
10,000 police officers. What are you paying them?
No, I mean, sorry.
How much will they cost?
It will cost about £80 million.
About £80 million?
Yeah.
Do you know the number of net losses so far for Labour?
At the time of us doing this interview, I think the net losses are about 50.
They're actually 125.
Well, there you have it. Your future Home Secretary. You know what? I think she's at least 5,428 times not as good as anybody else on offer. Sorry, my maths isn't that good. She's just infecting me. Do you know the thing that always makes me laugh? When you see people on the TV, Labour MPs, who say, people used to say I was thick at school, but now I've proved them wrong, I'm a Labour MP. It always just leaves me thinking a little bit. Anyway, talking of people that we absolutely hate and do not want to be involved in politics anymore, John Bercow this week did not get a peerage because he'd attacked the British Constitution. He'd ripped up the rule book because he was such an amazingly hostile person to democracy. He says that leaving the European Union was the worst mistake Britain has made in foreign policy terms since the Second World War. What, he ignored Suez, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, and dare I say, joining the European Union. Well, look, I'm delighted that Bercow is out of politics, and I'm hoping he doesn't get a peerage. I imagine that view is shared by my next guest, Patrick Christys, who's a presenter on this station and does loads of stuff. Patrick,
yes.
Bollocks to Bercow.
Bollocks to Bercow, that's what I say. I've got a sticker on my government-funded Land Rover. Oh, no, I don't really. But yeah, John Bercow, the dumpy despot, a face like gout, and the moral constitution so bankrupt that Greek people look at him and ask for money. It was absolutely shocking what he did for years and years and years. And I, for one, am pleased that he didn't get a peerage. He described himself as being like part of the furniture in Westminster. The only part of the furniture that I would like to see him as is one of those stuffed animals that you see in a safari retreat in South Africa.
Look, he's definitely going to be less dangerous now and less able to commit the evil acts that he committed when he was Speaker, but still a dangerous guy, right?
Well, look, absolutely. I mean, the fact is that he came out and said, this is the most dangerous foreign policy decision since the war, and I can say that now because I don't have to be impartial. He can't spell the word impartial, but there's something in this for me with John Bercow. He used to be part of a group called the Monday Club at university, and he even wrote John Bercow's Guide to Picking Up Women, which included phrases such as, stand back, I've got a vial of the AIDS virus. And this is why it makes me wonder with a lot of these people that now bracket themselves as these woke individuals. What are they really compensating for? It's the Justin Trudeau effect, isn't it? He brackets himself as anti-racist. He's blacked up more times than I've had hot dinners. And then he talks about being, the biggest feminist the world's ever seen. Well, there's been a lot of allegations about him, hasn't there? All these people now that I see virtue signalling, like the Bercows of this world, what are they hiding?
But the truth is, they want there to be one rule for them and a different rule for everybody else. We saw allegations of bullying in Parliament. Yeah. We saw allegations of sexism. Hey, look, I don't see Andrea Leadsom, the Conservative former leader of the House, moaning about sexism. But, her interactions with Bercow, would he have had the guts to do that to a man? I just wonder if it's one rule for them and a different rule for us.
It absolutely is. And this is when we talk about the Westminster bubble. This is a guy who spent hundreds of thousands of pounds over the course of him being in this grace and favour apartment that he's got there in Westminster while his wife runs roughshod over the capital city like there's no tomorrow. This guy is just so enclosed in this framework network that he thinks that he's part of it and he can't look outside it. And he's so unaware of how he's coming across. He very often does this, or did this at PMQs. Go, it's order, excuse me. We have a group of Ugandan orphans in upstairs here, and we have to set an example for them. What example was John Bercow setting for young people in this country who value democracy, value impartiality, and value the credibility of their political figures? He just destroyed that.
Hey, you know, it's a tradition in this country that Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the new Speaker, is thinking of bringing back, to have the wig and the gown.
Yes.
Now, we saw in the Supreme Court, Lady Hale, her with the spider brooch.
Yes.
And then she did a talk where she talked about the girly swats have returned. You know, the reason why we had those wigs and those gowns is in order to remove the individuality from people in these positions. The idea is that you don't represent yourself, you represent the people. Isn't it important we bring those things back? And actually, even though people have made a joke of them.
Absolutely, 100%. John Bercow, you could see for years, was teeing up his very lucrative after-dinner speaking circuit at the expense of British democracy. And that, for me, is absolutely unforgivable. The irony here, for me, is this, and this is something I take great comfort in, that John Bercow is a man that clearly only thinks about his own legacy, or how he's going to be remembered in history. Well, I can guarantee you, Mr. Bercow, you're going to be in none of the textbooks that my kids are ever going to read, and history is not going to look on you favourably. In fact, once people have made a good success of Brexit, they're going to look at you like the muppet you are.
By the way, you know the House of Lords is a nest of Europhiliac old fogies who hate democracy. He'll be perfect there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's just his seat, isn't it? That's exactly where is his home, isn't it? You can just see him there alongside everybody else, all just conspiring to take democracy out of this country and put it in the hands of a group of people who, by the way, are mostly white in that European Parliament. Can you imagine, right, if Boris Johnson had picked a cabinet, the same cabinet that we've got in the European Union as their leading committee? Can you imagine that? It's basically all white faces.
How about a ministry for British culture?
Oh,
I mean, that would have gone down badly. I mean, these guys are massive hypocrites on this issue.
Absolutely. This is what makes me laugh, right? You're allowed to wave the EU flag absolutely anywhere. In fact, it's actively encouraged. You see EU flags on, just outside restaurants in the capital city. But if you have a British flag, all of a sudden that means that you're definitely, very obviously, a total racist. What is that about?
It's absolutely disgusting. Patrick Christys, thank you so much. Now, this is the moment, of course, that we've all been waiting for. Here it is. It is, I don't know if you can see that, it's the Order of Lenin. Now, the person that we're going to award the Order of Lenin to today for Loony Leftie of the Week, you know, he's not as bad as Kim Il-sung. But then again, Kim Il-sung got 2 of them. So we say he's half as bad. The award, of course, goes to Jeremy Corbyn, because we all know that when Kim Philby got the Order of Lenin, it was because he backed the Kremlin as a traitor to the British state. And, of course, when we saw the chemical attack in Salisbury, it was amazing to see the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, parrot the Kremlin line. He is somebody that has supported the IRA, that has supported Hamas, that has supported the Munich terrorists, guys who've committed evil across the world, somebody who's always been an enemy to the British. Whatever argument we've ever been in, he always talks about support for the opposition. He was once asked, is there any British war he would have supported? He didn't say the Falklands. He didn't say supporting our troops in Afghanistan. No, he said the Second World War and smiled gleefully. Well, of course, maybe he was like his father, who did support the British in the Second World War, but only after 1941, when Stalin was invaded by Hitler. Prior to that, prior to 1941, like most people on the left, they supported Adolf Hitler. Isn't it remarkable that they got away with that? Well, look, Jeremy Corbyn, I think, is a worthy recipient of the first Order of Lenin to be awarded since 1991. He is a beacon for all that is bad in the world, all is malicious in the world. He is a man that stands up for foreign fighters against the British. He is a person who has supported terrorism in Britain, and he is a person with his 400 billion spending plan who plans to bring down the British state this time. Jeremy, the Order of Lenin is winging its way over to you, and next week we're going to have another loony lefty to win this prestigious, albeit dubious, award. Anyway, We like a bit of balance on this show. So now I'm going to bring on Ian Lavery, the chairman of the Labour Party, who is going to have a quick word with us and tell us why we are wrong to give Corbyn the Order of Lenin. Ian. Well, I don't understand what's happened here. I mean, he was 15 feet away. Get back on the empty chair, because I want to do this. I want to do this properly. Had he been here, I would have asked about Hezbollah. I would have asked about the IRA. I would have asked about Hamas and his support for the Munich terror. Hang on. What, we didn't invite him? Well, I thought he was supposed to be on at the same... we didn't invite... well, hey... all I can say to you, dear viewers and dear followers, we didn't invite the chairman of the Labour Party at all. He wasn't expecting to be here. He was actually, he was doing Julia Hartley-Brewer, which is a lovely thought, and unfortunately wasn't able to be here. So he couldn't pick up the Order of Lenin on behalf of Jeremy Corbyn, nor could he answer about all of those policies which are going to wreck Britain, reverse Brexit, and destroy the fabric of this nation. Anyway, all that's left for me to do is to say thank you to the empty chair, thank you to Tom Harwood, thank you to Patrick Christys, and indeed to say to Jeremy Corbyn, even though Ian Lavery wasn't here, don't worry, the medal's in the post. Now, you've got to join me next week when we're going to be hitting all of the big issues of the day, where we're going to have some more amazing guests and, of course, the clip of the week. And once again, the loony of the week. Everybody gets an Order of Lenin as long as they do something to affect this country and damage what we're trying to do for democracy and freedom. Join me next time with this and more.